Hi guys, thanks for joining me, DizzyAngelDemon, for a miniature modeler's quick tip. Today's quickie is all about weighing bases. But you might be asking yourself, why would I want to weigh my bases? Well, I for one like the feel of a weighty mini in my hands, something like a metal miniature. I also find that it helps stabilize the minis and they're less likely to tip over while being hastily moved around during an intense campaign. The trick is to not make them too heavy. If you're like most of us, you're going to have to transport your minis to where the action's at, and their combined weight's going to quickly add up. There's a lot of different ways to weigh in your bases, but this is how I like to do it. For today's project, you're going to need some spackling medium and a spackling knife, a brush, some primer, some water to clean up, and, of course, some minis. Today I'll be using Van Wilding and Van Wilder from the Super Dungeon Explorer Von Drac Manor expansion set. You may also like to have some sandpaper. I have a couple little pieces in 200 and 400 grit, a hobby knife, or some scissors. And let's get to it. Now if you look at the bottom of one of these Super Dungeon Explorer minis, there's some writing and a few like embossed areas, so there's a little bit of texture, but if you like, you can also use your hobby knife or some sandpaper and carefully scratch in some cross sections just to give the spackling medium something to attach to. Then we're going to take a little bit of spackling medium, a little really goes a long way, and I probably have way too much on here, and we just press it in. I should note that you do want to make sure that you've pre-washed all the mold release agent off of your minis, because that's going to make the plaster stick to the bottom much better. And it's that easy. So you just smooth it out and let it dry. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with this bigger base. I'll use a little bit of 200 grit sandpaper to rough up the bottom. And I'll carefully do some cross sections with my hobby knife. There. And now it's time to apply the spackling putty. And there you have it. So we'll let this dry too. Okay, so in case you can tell, it is nighttime now, and I just got back from work a little while ago. Our bases are ready to move on with. Before work, I went ahead and applied another coat of plaster because I wanted to make sure that it was fully filled in, and actually want it to go a little bit past the base, so as you can see possibly here. And at this point, like I said, it's all dry. So what we want to do now is make sure we sand it so that it's nice and smooth and your figure will sit flat, because right now you can see the plaster sticks out past the base and we don't want that. I'm just going to take a sheet of my 400 grit paper, sandpaper, put it on a flat surface. I would normally do this just on my desk, but so I can show you, I will do it on my little toolbox here. And you just set the figure down and move it around. You see that? This stuff sands off really easy. You just keep moving it around. Until it's nice and smooth. And you can tell. There we go. Once it starts to hit the plastic base, it's finished. So just wipe that off, use my dry brush here, and just brush off any dust. And I'll go ahead and do the same thing with this base. So at this point, they're ready to seal, because you don't want to leave the plaster like that. It's just not going to be durable, and if it gets wet, it's going to get ruined and whatever. So here comes the primer, and this is the Steno Res Primer by Badger. I'm a fan of this stuff. I started using it recently, and it is great. So it doesn't matter what color of primer you're going to use. I just had the black one near me, so that's the one that I will use. So make sure it's shaken. So I just put a little bit in a cup here. This primer is normally used with a spray gun, but since we're just applying it to the bottom of the bases for right now, I'm going to use a brush. And I have the Wargamer Vehicle and Terrain brush by the Army Painter. So you can see it just applies really nicely. And we're going to seal all that plaster. Now I brush from the center out, and that prevents you from getting these globs along the outer edge of the base. Then when you're done, just set it down on its side to dry. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with this one. So I'm just going to go rinse my brush while I wait for that to dry. And now that it's dry, it's done. You've weighed your base and give it a nice coat of primer. I actually applied 2 coats on here. You can paint it if you like, and when you're ready to seal the rest of the figure, you can apply a coat of sealer on here. And I would probably apply 2 because it is a base, and that's it. So let's just show you on my toolbox how well it sits. And then the same with this one. It's all dry, and go over there, Van Wilder, or Van Wilding. Van Wilder is coming in. And there you go. This one's substantially heavier because it is a bigger base, but there you go. Now if you're interested in taking it a little bit further, stay tuned for part 2 of weighing bases. Thank you very much for watching. Have yourselves a great day. Bye! Please show your support by hitting the like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe for all the latest from me, DizzyAngelDemon. Stay tuned because part 2 of weighing bases is coming right up.